green suit, pocket full of lies, like a sermon knife behind your ties. You point at the fear, then you feed it words, paint the whole room red before we've heard. You say trust me, then you move the fence. You make the weak line up and call it common sense. But I read your lips, I see the script. You sell the smoke, then you blame the sky. Propaganda man, propaganda man, spin it back again. Propaganda man, he wraps a label in a chain and calls it a plan. Propaganda man, cut so cold. Propaganda man, I see them old. Hear the crowd say wow. He sold them somehow. He sold me a dream in a paper suit, polished smile, all bitter fruit. Got my name on a list in his careful hands. So trust me, kid, I'm your propaganda man. He points at the feast and hides the plate, paints the lie and calls it fate. Every face in the crowd looks half alive. He laughs real sweet when the numbers lie. Oh, he knows what you fear. Oh, he feeds it here. One more push, one more brand of the propaganda man. Propaganda man, talk so sweet. Propaganda man, spin it back again. Propaganda man, propaganda man. He wraps a label in a chain and calls it a plan. Propaganda man, cut so cold. Propaganda man, I see the mold. Hear the crowd say wow. He sold them somehow. You know how to clap when the crowd gets tense. Trade a little truth for $1 You bend the mirror till it looks like blame. Then you call it peace, but it tastes the same. He got new words for an old wound. Turned my neighbor into a hunter at noon. Set the dogs on the truth by the courthouse steps, then washed his hands while the room just slept. He don't need a gun, he don't need to run. He only needs a screen and a trembling hand to make a saint out of a propaganda man. Oh, he knows what you fear. Oh, he feeds it here. One more push, one more brand of the propaganda man. Propaganda man, talk so sweet. Propaganda man, spin it back again. Propaganda man, he wraps a label in a chain and calls it a plan. Propaganda man, cut so cold. Propaganda man, I see the mold. Hear the crowd say wow. He sold them somehow. I won't march to your drum, won't bite that bait, won't wear your fear like it's heaven made. Say my name out loud if you need a face. I'm done with your shadow, done with your race. Propaganda man, propaganda man, your spell is broke. Propaganda man. But the ink runs thin when the light gets in, and the cheap disguise starts to bend. If you look him in the eye, he can't hide behind all the mouths he bought to defend. Propaganda man, propaganda man, talk so sweet. Propaganda man, spin it back again. Propaganda man, he wraps a label in a chain and calls it a plan. Propaganda man, cut so cold. Propaganda man, I see the mold when the crowd says no. He's just a frightened man. Propaganda man, propaganda man, propaganda man, propaganda man.
Okay, that's Troy Anthony with Propaganda Man.
Freedom to be you. Freedom to be.
Boom. Not a bad song, huh? Propaganda Man.
Enjoyed that. I had a little bop to that.
Yeah, I was watching you bopping. I was bopping yesterday. I didn't think we could
Hey,
still
Mary.
bop at our age, but apparently we can. Talking of a great bopper, we got Dr. Robert Peterson coming in. So I'm just going to bring him up here now. And he's asking for 5 or so minutes just to talk about what he wants to talk about, which is the CDC coming here and anything. So is there anything you want to go off your chest before I bring in the doc?
No, let's hear the doctor.
Done. G'day, doctor.
Yeah, how are you, Rob? How are you, Michael? How are you, Paul?
Good, man. Good.
Yeah. Boy. You know, we Australians, we've been subjected to a lying government with regards to the budget, and of course, this is the same government that tried to stop a royal commission into the massacre of Bondi, and we're really resistant. And you know, now we're now in a situation where the average population, the average person, is not aware of something even much more sinister. And if you like, I'll give you a little bit of background with regards to what you just said, and that's, you know, the Australian population really need to know the true implications of what's unfolding with this formation of the CDC, the Centre for Disease Control. Now, that was passed in an act last year under the Australian CDC Control Act. So it was passed last year, and basically they were formed out of a recommendation from the COVID inquiry. Now, as we all remember, the government was absolutely resistant to having a royal commission, and they had an inquiry where they set their own parameters. We didn't even question the states on what they did and how it was unfolded. It was just a sham, the inquiry, limited parameters, and out of it they recommended the formation of the CDC. Now, this CDC that's been formed by the government, they're independent of the government. They're not answerable to the government. Who are they following? They're following the WHO and the international health regulations. They can even have the potential to not follow, you know, Australian law and have the potential to change it. Now, what's their remit? Well, they're going to be looking after future and potential pandemics. They're going to implement the National Health and Climate Strategy, which links health, the environment, energy policies, which is basically following the One Health of the WHO, the One Health agenda. And of course, you know, it's far wider than public health, and they have a structure already in place where they're interacting. The CDC is already interacting with different ministries within the Australian government, you know, Department of Agriculture, Fisheries, Wildlife, Land, Environment, Energy. They're already negotiating with this, and they have the potential to change the direction of these different ministries, and they have the potential to override these ministries. So here you've got an organisation which is not answerable to the Australian government having all this influence behind the scenes. You know, they're going to provide advice to the states and territory ministers, and, you know, that's going to be involved with IHR recommendations, which if you want to, we can get into later on. But, you know, we'll all remember that these IHR recommendations, they were formed and passed at the 2024 World Health Assembly, and the international health regulations, they were passed not even following the WHO's own Regulation 55, which said that any international health regulation change had to be given, each country had to be given 4 months' notice to consider the change. Well, there were over 300 changes, and the governments were given these 300 changes 1 day before they voted on them. not 4 months, 1 day. And in addition to that, in the regulations, Regulation 55 of the WHO, they had to have at least 50% of the countries voting on them. Well, less than 30% of the countries turned up for the vote. So anyway, this is what the CDC is going to follow. And it's just absolutely frightening what's going on. Now, Professor Weiner, who's the Director General, she stated that they're going to be more transparent, and they're going to prioritise medical evidence, except for one thing. They have stated they're going to have total control over freedom of information and decide what they'll allow and not allow. So that's pretty transparent, isn't it, for you? But the same crew, they're going to be happy to follow the WHO's 100-day tested vaccines. Forget the old 7 or 10-year testing business. You know, like, it's just frightening. They haven't said, there's no indication whatsoever. They've never made any point to having analysed all the figures post-COVID with regards to deaths and the analysis of the vaccines. They haven't analysed any of those. They didn't even analyse the messenger RNA scenario. They're going to have massive sweeping powers where not only can they implement the WHO's IHRs and the WHO's directive, they can enter international arrangements outside of parliamentary scrutiny. You know, it's just crazy. Our government has now outsourced our sovereignty to this WHO global corporate entity. People should remember too that the FDA and the CDC in America, they actually wanted and agreed to suppress the Pfizer trial data for 75 years. I mean, that was in the public health interest. And of course, the big thing is it all points to us having a loss of informed consent. In addition to all of that, they have stated they've got non-government stakeholders. Well, who the hell are they? Who are these non-government stakeholders in the CDC? I mean, what's going on here? So, yeah, this is a very scary setup where basically we have no input. The Australian citizens have no input in the directives of the CDC, who are just literally following the WHO and the WHO IHRs. Our government has no oversight of them, and yet they have the ability, and they are infiltrating all the different ministries in our government. So it's to me, it seems like a backdoor takeover of this bloody country. Now, look, I'd like to go on a little bit before we get into discussion about the actual WHO, so, you know, people just understand exactly where we're at with it. And, you know, they're an unelected international organisation, and they're now beholden to global corporate interests in their public-private partnerships. They've mutated from the original WHO that was post-Second World War, and now instead of looking after sanitation and all the wonderful things that were instituted post-Second World War, it's now become a business enterprise. And as I said, it's based on public-private partnerships. Now, the funding of the WHO and what they're doing is incredibly important. So the funding and the donors of the WHO, you know, 20% of their money comes from the member countries, although we're a little bit special, Australia. Penny Wong, we had been donating around 10 million a year. Penny Wong last year decided to give the WHO 100 million, just a, you know, I don't know, a Christmas present for whatever reason. And the other 80% is from volunteer donations, of which Bill Gates is the biggest. Now, 75% of the funding has been earmarked for donor projects. In other words, to benefit the donors financially. Now, on the WHO website, the WHO website actually states that investors in the WHO can get 35-1 returns on their investment money. Hello? Where's that money coming from? I think it's going to come from taxpayers who are going to be submitted to any directives by the CDCs.
I got it.
You know, it's just crazy, and they've stated themselves that their budget is highly earmarked and driven by donor interests. This isn't a neutral voice in public health. You know, it's scary. Now, 97% of the donor organisations that deliver 80% are pro-big pharma, and that includes other donating organisations like banks, the UN agencies, government research institutes, and of course, big pharma, they're a big donor, and what are they interested in? Well, vaccine, pharmaceutical. So we're losing, control. This is centralised control. There's no independence here, and the Rockefellers who, basically own Vanguard and BlackRock. Well, Vanguard and BlackRock are the major shareholders in big pharma. So it tells you the direction of the globalists and where they're going here. So, you've got this situation where, if the CDC follows the WHO and the IHRs, and we know now that, it's infiltrating the wider government ministries with the One Health. I think we as Australians, we've just got to say we do not consent to the WHO and the CDC, because here we have quietly in the night, which Australians are not aware of this structure. It's all being put in place, and, we really have to get as many people everywhere, far and wide, make them aware that this is what this government has put in place, and it's a total removal of our sovereignty. And, we have to provide resistance. We have to make sure we have, the Nuremberg Code of Bodily Autonomy, and we have to let them know we do not consent to this takeover of Australian health, and via the One Health, extensive infiltration into our whole society. So there you go. Thanks for listening as an opening salvo. It's in addition, if you want to talk about later on, they've also set up these WHO collaborating centres, which I'll go into a little bit later on, if you like, after we have a chat about, this CDC and the implications of it.
Question here from Matty Max: 35-1 ROI from the WHO. What does the WHO produce that could sell for 35 times what it costs them?
Well, it sells vaccines. The Australian government, for example, bought 18 million jabs, and we don't. They remember how is this possible? They refused to tell the taxpayer, the Australian citizens, that how much money they spent on it. The rumor was around $200 per jab,
wow.
But nobody knows exactly. But that's
$200 per jab.
Per jab. Now it's what's the rumor from overseas countries, and where pricing in some countries has been released, but they refused to tell us. So then you got on top of that, you got all the other stuff. You got to remember, like the PCR tests, they had to be paid for, of course.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and masks and you name it, the whole shebang. Those PCR tests, it's been shown now that there are 87% false positives, but it was all part of the scare campaign to get everybody terrified. Remember we used to have, there's 50 COVID today, there's 400 today, all that sort of bullshit. And it was all based on lying inaccurate PCR testing. But, we paid the price of all of that.
Yeah.
That's how they get the 35-1.
Yeah,
You-
there's so that's $3.6 billion. 18 million times 200 is. So we're saying if that is it. Yeah. For the Pfizer Brazil contract was leaked and it was $10 a jab, says Earl. Yeah.
Mm.
But
Well,
he's in America, Texas. G'day, Earl.
again, it's interesting that they have different fees for different
countries.
first world, second world, third world countries, etc. And the same with regards to the donations. Getting back to the 100 million that Penny Wong donated to them, offer, very kind of her on behalf of the taxpayers' money. If the pandemic treaty goes through, now it hasn't, it's been held up at the moment. So but if the pandemic treaty goes through, and this is just a business contract, if it goes through, they're saying that each country will have to pay a percentage of their health portfolio, and in our case, they're suggesting it's going to be between 3 and 5%. In Australia's case, that gets into billions of dollars, not 10 million a year, but 1 or 2 billion a year. I mean, this is frightening.
Well,
tyranny is expensive. Tyranny is expensive, and it's worth every cent of it. Because one of the things I've been wondering about is where's the return on investment with AI, and there was recently, some real good questions about that. Well, I think tyranny pays, and what happened during COVID showed us that the WHO was not trustworthy. That they were a bunch of freaking evil clowns. Yeah. They were the ones who were at the bottom of every post where I would talk about like PCR tests being misused to create fear, dead nucleotides. There would be a banner underneath all my social media going, the WHO, this is the trusted source. And these guys were clowns. They were responsible for the lockdowns. First of all, they said, oh, no, this is only extreme measures. And then they went all gung-ho, masks. Everything that they pushed was BS. They constantly were doing backflips. And we're relying on these guys to me, Rob, this is the one world government by stealth, and the UN development goals goes well beyond health, doesn't it? It reaches into, they want to control our air, our energy, that's the whole sustainable development and net zero. They want to control what we eat, what we think, where we go. So this is Big Brother. We call it WHO, but it's Big Brother, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And they have stated categorically that one of their driving motives is the extreme danger of climate change. So,
even though they're all making data centers now, and they don't want to hear about.
That's right. But it's interesting. These are the so-called elite scientists looking after Australians' health. But if they're that good, they should look at the science into what's going on with regards to the climate change is a bullshit term. It's all about CO2, and it was only a couple of months ago that 40 of the scientists from the International Panel of Climate Change resigned because and on the way out they said that we found that the Earth's temperature has been going down over the last 16 years, but in addition to that, the CO2 basis is nonsense, and 40 of them resigned. But here we are, our scientists are sort of accepting this. Well, no, not if you're going to be basing your health on accommodating the climate change nonsense. It's just outrageous.
We're debasing our economy because, the one thing that Hormuz should have shown us is that if you don't have energy, you don't have an economy. And if you don't have energy, you don't have food, you don't have fertilizer, you don't have mining, you don't have... And the net zero, I think, was really an operation to impoverish the West. to get us used to used to. It was an excuse, to get us to impoverish ourselves, and you can see it's going marvelously well. Real wages are more negative in Australia than anywhere in the world, and
unless you're the Prime Minister, who's given himself 57,000 pay
well, but
rise.
he could vote himself a pay rise. Look, this is really terrifying. I remember, Rob, maybe 4 years ago now, I did on my Substack, I posted the international health regulations, and they were talking about amending it. And the things that they crossed out were things like for the full respect and dignity of the human being, respecting bodily autonomy. I went, holy shit! This is happening in private now, in a meeting overseas, where they're rewriting and they're writing out human dignity and human rights from the international health regulations under the guise of pandemic preparedness. So I've been smelling this rat coming for a while, and like you say, I think it goes well beyond health. But this is the edge case of how they want to bring in global one world government and control every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely. They've literally taken total control. They're trying to take total control of sovereignty from countries who sign up to this. And we will be at their mercy. What they should be doing is basically providing, well, not them, because I think they've got to go, but a new international liaison group should be giving assistance to individual sovereign nations and not usurping it and taking control over sovereign nations. And as I said, the structure that's in place now, our citizens have no possible pathway, given the fact that the CDC is independent of government control. Citizens can't even vote at this point in time to change anything. I mean, it's just a total usurping of control of our sovereignty over our health, and by extension into the One Health areas as well. I mean, it's really frightening. And people just have to be...
It's amazing that they're able to get away with it, isn't it? There's like no murmur there's no outrage in the public or anything like that. And the government seems to be just doing what they want. There's no care for us at all. Well, we'll tell you when we've sold the country. We'll let you know. We'll send you the bill.
They already sold the country.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, if it's okay, Michael, then I'll go and expand a bit now about the WHO collaboration centres, okay? And this in itself just shows you the depth of degree of level of shit we're in. These collaborating centres are institutions designated by the WHO to advance the WHO's mandates and agendas. Now, there's over 800 worldwide, and in Australia, we've got over 50. So we've got over 50 WHO collaborating centres in Australia. We've got the highest percentage on a population basis, right? Now, what it does, the WHO maintains its influence and control via these WHO collaborating centres, whether or not a country's in or out of the WHO. Why? Because these collaborating centres, these institutions, have to get permission from the WHO before they release any information about them. Now, who are these WHO collaborating centres in Australia? Their reach is enormous. They include universities. And interestingly enough, I don't know whether you saw it today. This is incredible. Today in Victoria, there was a big announcement that La Trobe University has done a deal with BioNTech, the guys that manufactured Pfizer. The La Trobe Uni have received 2 portable stations to help develop messenger RNA products for the future. And we're joining an illustrious other country who the BioNTech have joined up, and that is Rwanda.
Rwanda. Oh my
it was
God.
Rwanda first, Australia second, and that happened today. The announcement was today. But in addition, there's a number of hospitals in it, and this is the scary part, right? This is where it really, and Paul will be able to talk about this. Other institutions that are collaborating centres, are you ready? One of them is an organisation called APRA. Now, they were designated as a Centre for Health Workforce Regulation in partnership with the National Board for Health Professions in Australia. So they are, now this is the organisation, as we know, that were determining the fate of health professionals in Australia, and yet they're under the WHO via being a collaborating organisation. It is just frightening. Now, the other thing is the TGA has a vaccine quality assurance department under the TGA, and they're a huge collaborating centre. And this was the mob that passed the emergency release of the COVID jabs. Now, you know, they had the responsibility of protecting Australian citizens. They didn't even analyse the COVID jabs themselves. And it was interesting. Professor Petrovsky, who got executed, who developed a protein-based vaccine, the old-fashioned protein-based vaccine, and he approached the Australian government. They were advised that, I'm sorry, no good, and the TGA advised them, or, you know, the Vaccine Quality Assurance Organisation said, no, we've got to go with Pfizer. And yet, let me go back to what we were saying before. They're a WHO collaborating agent. The WHO promote their own sponsors. Oh, well, Pfizer, big pharma sponsor. Well, you get preference to have the 18 million jab contract. So the health ministry's there. Again, national laboratories, ready for this, military and bioweapons facilities in Australia, and a number of the health professional training bodies. They're all under the WHO via being a collaborating centre. Now, what are their functions? What do they cover? Well, of course, they cover pandemic and emergency response. They cover pathogen research and storage, vaccine development and patents, diagnostic testing. It gets better. Gender and sex education in schools, water, food, e-health, and here's a big one, and this is a bit frightening, education of nurses and midwives, who their organisation is a WHO collaborating centre. So the nurses in Australia don't realise they're under the control of a WHO via the Nurses WHO Collaborating Centre. So the other thing the collaborating centres have had to say is that their work plans are confidential and they can only release information if the WHO agrees to. So this is the backdoor other side in Australia now. So we are really in diabolical trouble. And, you know, the other thing, of course, with the WHO, they also have collaborating units and communications strategies with the colleagues in Facebook and other social media platforms to help them tackle misinformation and disinformation, specifically back about the COVID vaccine. So we all remember how Twitter, the old Twitter, was literally sits in all the bloody scientific debate, etc. So look, you know, we just absolutely have to demand full transparency and democratic accountability with all these organisations. It's not going to be easy, but we've got to do it. And, we have to go through them. They have to, all money's invested in them by big pharma and alternative donors have to be removed. And, at the end of the day, what we're talking about with these collaborating centres is it's about bodily autonomy and informed consent, medical safety, and of course sovereignty. And we just shouldn't be accountable to unelected international lunatics, businessmen under the WHO. And
what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. That's what it feels.
Oh yeah, but
do you know the word you kept using, Rob, is collaborator.
Yeah.
Collaboration, but I heard the word collaborator, and I remember my dad talking about collaborators and resistors in World War II, and he once threw down a steak in front of his dog. He was hungry as anything, but he wouldn't touch it if he said collaborator. So that's the baggage I bring when you hear it. And all these institutions, august institutions, they've all been they're all collaborators with this agenda of complete control, complete takeover of sovereignty. They're going to have us walking around like robots, paying by the breath for the air that used to be free. If we don't push back, is my thinking. This week, Patrick Byrne did a poll on X. He said, during COVID-19, the medical profession, and there were two options, violated the Nuremberg Code or observed the Nuremberg Code. And 98.6% voted that they had violated the Nuremberg Code. So this is the, they don't get a pass, the WHO, all these collaborating institutions. And when you were laying out some of the things that they were doing, I noticed one thing that was obviously missing: early treatment. It's all about vaccines. Quick! I see a virus. Get a gene therapy into you. Nowhere is there anything about health. All of a sudden the profession's forgotten about the key determinants of dealing with infectious diseases, which involves nutrition, hygiene, and yes, what we've learned over the last 5-6 years is that we've always been taught, viruses, there's nothing we can do, throw up your hands, and nothing we can do. It's not true. Now we know there are lots of things we can do to treat. Notice the WHO doesn't talk about anything that involves treatment, especially anything that is cheap and generic. So you see, they've totally captured corrupt institutions. And they giving unaccountable people this much control is something that people need to push back against, because at the end of the day, they're going to these tyrants are going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
Oh yeah, they're not stopping. That's clear.
Yeah,
Question here from Martin Taylor. Sorry, Doc. Question here from Martin Taylor. How and who demand full transparency from? What is their obligation to comply with your demands? Excellent question. Thank you, Martin.
Well, what's going on at the moment? There's a group, and there's a number of groups around the world. There's one which is being led by Ramesh Thakur, and he's party to an organisation called the International Health Reform Project, and there's over 10, exceptionally qualified.
Him. I've interviewed him twice.
Yes,
He's brilliant. Yeah,
yep.
He's a good man.
So they've got this on ball rolling now, and they're looking at alternative structures for international affairs instead of the WHO. And there's about 10 professors and of health, medicine, economics involved,
Yeah.
and they're communicating with other organisations around the world to
Yeah.
develop an alternative body to the WHO, where this international organisation will give advice and assistance, but under no circumstances will they remove sovereignty and care of a country's health over their own people, over their own citizens. And so there's things in place at the moment, and it's growing. It's going to get bigger and bigger. But what we need to make people aware is what we talked about tonight. Very few people have awareness of this CDC, Centre for Disease Control, and we just can't consent to it.
Well, I just want to play this. This is from Senator. Right.
Can we get you on the COVID cover-up? So why do you think legacy media such as CNN's not covering this?
Why aren't you covering that?
I want to ask you about Iran, the war in Iran.
You really ought to cover the fact that Peter Marks knew on March 1st of 2021 that their algorithms were hiding safety signals. On 26 days later, found out 25 serious adverse events like sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, Bell's palsy, different types of strokes. And they buried it. They hid it. It's a major scandal. It's even as big a scandal that the major media is completely ignoring the story. It's been out now for almost 6 weeks.
So this is, he goes on, but this is talking about the CDC. So you can't trust, they've already got, they've already got a track record of totally not being able to trust them. Why should we put our own health, our country's own health in their hands? And the politicians aren't even asking us for our permission.
Well, what you're saying is absolutely right. And this Professor Warner is, she gave out this big spiel about transparency, etc. Well, these questions have to be put to her, and I believe they're going to be. It was hopefully going to be in a Senate estimates inquiry, but it fell over because one of the senators was unable to attend, who was going to put the questions forward. But exactly along those lines, what's going to be the feedback with regards to data and side effects, etc., how quickly, and there's an enormous number of questions that have to be answered. I mean, getting back to what Paul said before about the WHO and the COVID thing, the deliberate fear-mongering thing, the WHO actually said right at the start, as part of their fear-mongering campaign, that 3.4%, how on earth they plucked this one out of the blue, 3.4% of people are going to die from it, right? And it ended up being 0.02%, and they were nearly all over 80. Yeah. And they all had multiple. It was just an absolute propaganda campaign. That they also said stuff along the lines that, as we know, ivermectin doesn't work, and our government said it banned it. They said initially the WHO said that masks don't work. Then they changed their mind. And then 2 years or 3 years later, the Cochrane report did a big investigation, and they then recommended to the WHO. In fact, they don't work. So I mean, it's just frightening what they did. And
Rob, you talked about the public-private partnerships involved in this takeover. When I hear that, I think of two other words: fascism and corruption.
Correct.
And then you add unaccountability to it. It all fits in. It's a giant RICO fraud. I mean, this is how the Epstein class gets to run pandemics. We know from the Epstein papers that they planned this whole thing out. The whole pandemic COVID show was the Epstein class reaching into our institutions, using their big money to corrupt it. And so when you talk about these public-private partnerships and this unaccountability, this lack of transparency, I see one word: corruption. Corruption. I'm so fucking over the corruption. And the last 6 years showed us that they were incompetent, evil clowns. And they're still driving the bus. And they're going to drive us straight into tyranny if enough people say, no, we want to get out of the WHO. No, we want a Royal Commission which actually highlights the the malfeasance, misfeasance, criminality of these organizations. I think Patrick Byrne's tweet is right. A lot of people think that there were crimes against humanity done. We shouldn't be giving them promotions and more power. We should be disbanding them and like alternative institutions need to be built, because I think they've shown themselves to be untrustworthy and corrupt.
Yeah.
Well, Event 201, that was held in October 2019, and it just literally, in New York, and they just literally laid out the whole shebang. As I don't know whether it was a warning to us all, but it was absolutely categorically declaring exactly what was going to happen and who was going to do what. And there it was, literally October, a couple of months before it so-called appeared in China, and the way it unfolded was exactly how they stated it in Event 201.
Yeah.
And it is planned, and we have to stop. It's for anybody that's got any common sense. We cannot have an institution that is not answerable to our parliament, that the parliament created, and is independent.
100%.
And they will have control over all of pandemic preparedness, and then, as I said, extension via the One Health thing into everything with regards to our society. It's just, we're at the crossroads here. People,
it's interesting of how to get the message out, though, isn't it, Doc? I mean, can I tell you, out there, if I went in to say I'm near Bustleton in WA, I reckon I could probably walk around Bustleton with a microphone, and 5, maybe 6 out of every 10 people wouldn't know who the WHO was. So it's. I'm not saying we give up, but I'm saying we've got to realize the problem. The first base thing is people have to realize this is happening. The second major problem is you have a portion of the people who just cannot not trust the government. It's like a part of their makeup, and but there's a lot of that moving away. Pauline Hanson is in our favor. One Nation is really growing. So I think people are awakening, but it's really interesting. Like, see what's happening with Albo now. It's fire the liar. It's kind of like a slogan you need, fire the liar. You know what I mean? And who is good, because who rhymes with a lot of stuff. Poo. That's a good one. Who on the who? But it's just incredible. There's so many vaccine injuries. The CDC, people have to make aware. It's almost like going, look, the old Australia where you sat back and you went to Bali and you came back and you didn't worry about the world or politics is over. The building data centers to enslave you and your children. It's all over. The corruption is endemic. And so you have to do something now, or you just have to accept that the only freedom you're going to have is the freedom to endure. That's it. And you have to do it now. So it's trying to figure out how to get the messaging across, because it's doable. Other countries do it. Other causes do it. It's just, look at the Palestinians with their one flag. Others do it. It's just finding. Ditch the witch is another one. G'day, Tom. Ditch the witch. And that's spot on. So there's who is the poo in my shoe? Jane, see, she's on it. But this is what I think. It's getting simple slogans that start questions and getting on, and how it's done. I also think one of the problems we have, Doc, is that it's too much of a reliance on social media, which they control completely.
Yeah.
And I know that because I meet people and they go, "Oh, Michael, I love your work, but I haven't seen anybody here. You don't post anymore," and they follow everything. And they're just not allowed to see it. You have to actively go to find it. So they control everything, but they don't control face-to-face. They don't control town halls. And if we're serious, this is what we got to do. This is coming. This is coming to your country, and you have to You have to listen. You have to decide whether you're going to agree with this or not. And your politicians won't help you because they've already sold you out. $100 million given to the WHO when I'm interviewing people who are living in sheds, old women who are living in sheds with no heating and mice, and other people living in their cars, and everything's collapsing. And the PM's giving himself $57,000 pay rise, and Penny Wong is giving away $100 million like it's nothing, you know. I mean, these are things that can fire people up. People are angry at the moment, and the thing is to poke the bear with that, you know, and that's a big poke.
Well, as I said at the start, they have declared themselves for being the lying pieces of shit that they are, you know, basically.
Yeah.
And they are
Super
bringing
in the loo. See, they're coming in. So this is getting the ideas up. You watch, one person will come up with an idea and go, "That's it." You know, it was Kill the Bill in Victoria in the Dan Andrews days. We didn't win, but Kill the Bill was a great slogan. You know, yeah. And so it's always using their weapons against them. That's what they do for us. We use it back. Sorry, mate.
I saw something this week, Michael, that I thought represented the Aussie spirit of non-compliance. It's very brief.
Rise, ready to race!
Get off the track.
I said I made a comment that that's the Aussie spirit for you. Not for violence against police, but I'm just saying that's the Aussie spirit. The question is, do we have the ability to push back against total control? Because that's what I think this topic opens up. I mean, I remember hearing and seeing during COVID UN trucks up in northern New South Wales and Queensland in behind fences, ready to go. So I think this is deadly serious. What I'm saying, I'm not trying to be alarmist. I think this is globalist control, and this is the mechanism via the WHO and the UN and the Sustainable Development Goals. Even though they're insane, it doesn't matter that they're insane. It doesn't matter that they're anti-human or inhuman. They're desperate to control every aspect. So.
Yeah, they've got an agenda that they're going for it without a doubt. But it's not all their way. I mean, look what's happening in Ireland, in Belfast. Look what's happening in England. Look all across Europe. People have had enough. Even I interviewed Bettina Arndt today, and she said the same. She said, "Yep, people have had enough." So it's not going to be as easy a ride as it was pre-COVID. There's a lot of people now who are fed up. A lot of young people who do this. So it's finding the right messaging though, with something in that can be, because this is a place where we can actually take our country back. And I saw that with Pauline. She got up the other day to do a speech somewhere, and she just sat there silent and said, "You know what? I just want my country back." And I thought, that's all the speech you need. That's it. These people are trying to take it away. Who the F are they? And why should we trust the Yanks about anything? And so it's everything's in our favor, because the other thing I'm noticing about young people, as far as they're concerned, we're being led somewhere that's not conducive to their souls. They don't want to go there. So if the messaging was correct and right, I think there's a very good chance that we could get real awareness through it. But it's finding the right thing, and it's got to be cheap too, because these things cost money, and we just don't have the money. That's the truth. So it's other ways. Another way is cartoons on AI is a big thing now. Cartoons, AI cartoons. What Pauline Hanson does with those ads that she does, those comics that she does. I don't know if you've seen them. They're hilarious and they spread viral. Tom Vogel is watching. He's a great animator. This is what we need. It's actually harnessing the people creatively, and they're harnessing their creativity to say, how do we do this? How do we win our country back? We don't have the weapons, but we still have somewhere in us is the larrikin soul. I notice I've been saying lately something, I use lots of things to see if they work, but one thing that works now is I'm saying the bravest larrikins left in Australia now are the Corellas, who fly over the silent towns going, fuck yeah, fuck yeah, fuck yeah. That's what we need to be. We need the soul of the Corellas in us, you know? We're the who, we're going to take your country. Fuck yeah. This is where we're at, man. You know, it's this mighty coddling stuff. Fuck it. Where's it got us? You know what I mean? Trying to do the courts the nice way doesn't work. It's all owned. You know, we've got to get to Australia and go, you're here right now. You can either be the enslaver for the next generation or the liberator. You're actually the most important people now. And there's a lot of people saying this were the most important generation that's ever lived because of that. So it's getting people to realize that, because what that's been happening the last few years, Doc, is a war of worthlessness, where people feel worthless, powerless. They just feel like, oh, I've just got to take whatever's coming. There's nothing I can do. Well, that's actually bullshit. Maybe alone there's nothing, but all of us together, you've no idea. We're unstoppable. You've just got to realize that.
Well, what you mentioned before about what's going on in Ireland and in England, yeah, I mean, it's happening. It's happening around the world, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and that's only the countries we know of. Like a lot of Ireland was rising up a few weeks ago, and then all the feeds cut. You couldn't get anything out of it. I was getting information from a truck driver cousin there, but that's the control they have over the internet, you know. And I think they're just trying to get us to fight each other, bitch fight against each other, that we're so busy fighting each other over petty things that we're not actually focused on the main goal. And the main goal is the sovereignty of Australia.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, we've got the old favourite senators and a couple of the MPs there, so we'll be working on them. And with a bit of luck, maybe, One Nation and a couple of other freedom parties, who I would hope all joined in one force, by the way. But anyway, they can start putting it on their shoulders as well, and saying, we want Australia under Australian rule, not having a government which is dictated to by outside vested interests, globalist, New World Order type of characters. Because
I think we're just sick of the Epstein class running the whole show, whether it's in Australia or whether it's in America or UK. It's the same big moneyed interests who think that, and they actually sit beyond government. They're above government. They're unaccountable, and so far, that despite their crimes, they're walking around completely. I think it's really clear that they've committed crimes against humanity, but nothing changes. They still they still fly in their private jets and eat in fine dining, and we haven't had accountability. See, I'm not sure that we can vote our way out of this tyranny. I saw a comment about the armed men in Ireland. I don't think we can necessarily fight our way out of it either. I think we have to withdraw our consent and not comply with their systems. But we have to do it in large numbers, and we have to be skillful. That doesn't mean that we should stand by while women and children are being raped and murdered by the third world that we import into our countries. Like in the UK and Ireland. I think I can understand their anger and the desire to protect, because that's the job of the men, to protect. And so from that point of view, I'm happy to see people standing up and saying, well, we will protect our communities, because to the extent that the authorities are stepping back from it and actually promoting danger to our population.
Come to Victoria.
So come to Victoria.
I mean, if you've got a machete, you've got a free passage to, get bailed and bailed and bailed and bailed. You can burn buildings down and get bailed, and then knock off a car the next night and still get bailed. I mean, it's outrageous.
Yeah. Another thing though, Doc, we had 7 doctors on the other night, all deregistered or suspended. We got them on first to celebrate the courage of Dr. Borchos, how he handed out the exemptions and everything he's been through. They finally deregistered him. But then we had on Charlie Teo, and 2 days he was on for two. He looked pretty despondent and broken, and then 2 days later, the richest woman in the country had picked him up. So I don't know if she came from our show, but something in a move. But I think with the WHO, because it's medical, using doctors is very powerful, because people still trust doctors, even though they all know your stories. They know you're good men, and same with Miley Trin. These are good people. People who stood by their integrity. This is an interesting way of getting it across, rather than, because someone else might come across me and go, "You're not even medical, Michael," but you guys are. You know, you are. The doctors are supposed to be the pinnacle of the health industry. So you guys are, and you've got all this great group of renegades. They're very cool. It's like almost the Magnificent Seven, and saying this is it. The bandits are coming into town, the WHO, and they're going to take everything. They want everything. They want control over everything. Just like ants, just like the film Magnificent Seven. And then I don't know how we can. I did this just before, just for the fun of it. But watch this. There's rousing stuff. And so it's coping these with their propaganda versus our propaganda. Let's see if this works. So we just got to change your face to one of these, Rob, and Paul Oosterhuis maybe to Yul Brynner, although he's got to lose some hair. But what I'm saying is, it might sound funny, but the thing is, this is stories. Facts. Over 6 years, facts haven't worked on people. It's like they just bounce off their heads. You've got to inspire them with a story. You're fighting for the liberty of your child, your grandchild, something like this. Is where it is now, because they won't have it. They'll be forced to take vaccines they don't want. No choice. You know, this is what's coming. This is what they want. You know,
Paul,
and that's just what they're telling us they want. Who knows what else they got in their box? You know,
Paul, what percentage of medicos do you think were aware that APRA was a WHO collaborating centre?
Probably less than 1%. And even they probably don't understand what the implications are. You know, one of the things I talked about for years now was the excess mortality. And I remember when I 3 years ago, when I was like doing the Lighthouse Declaration, that was one of the things I pulled out, along with the falling fertility. It's now hitting the headlines a few years later, but there's been papers now where, you know, there are a couple of countries that have very big data sets where they can look at all-cause mortality, or Japan and Germany are two of them. And, you know, this is terrifying. This is a chart of the Japanese total deaths per thousand of population. And I don't know if you can see, but in the middle there, that little bump off the line, that was the tsunami and earthquake in 2011. And then you've got that vertical line, which is COVID-19 period. And look at it. It's just gone straight up. It's really terrifying stuff. And, you know, the other day at the Forest of the Fallen, there was someone who still pulled out, it saved 20 million lives. And I said, I don't understand how an injection, which is expressing a toxic product, in other words, a poison, can save any lives. And you can see there, it's like it hasn't gone away. The infertility.
Yeah, that person likes the story, Paul. I don't want to be disrespectful, but that person likes the story. Oh, I took it. Yeah, I got injured. Yeah. Yes, I lost my husband, but it saved 20 million lives. They can live with that. They like the story. The other one who says this about stories is the little cockroach from Israel. What's his name? The
Yuval Noah Harari.
Yeah. He says that, and he's right. I listen to him a lot, and he says stories. You want to move people, you move them with stories. You can get an army up on a story. You cannot get an army up on facts. They just don't work. And I'm saying for 6 years, I've interviewed so many great people who've got tons and tons of facts, and it's stories that actually get people fired up. It's time to be a hero. You're offering people a hero. You're offering, we're fighting for a future for our kids, not just where they can be free, but what does freedom actually mean for them? You know what I mean? Because it's that we can see freedom being taken away. All of us now are museums walking museums to an Australia where we didn't have computers, we didn't have mobile phones. The country didn't seem to be as that corrupt, but maybe it was. We didn't sense it, but things were different. People were different. Integrity meant something, it seemed to, but now we're in this really strange place. And a lot of it is because of compliance and apathy from the people. That's the real thing. This is only happening because of compliance. That's the lesson of COVID. You complied, wore the mask, did everything, trying to do what was right by the government. Where'd it get you? You got the shit in your veins. You're always wondering, is that going to be cancer or kill me? You've lost people. You're completely broke because the government spent all this money on COVID. Now you're paying the bill. And you feel like you've lost your identity in your country. Well, time to fight for it. These are the things that could. I'm not saying they will, Doc, but I'm saying it's stories are the way. Stories, good slogans, simple things that people can realize. If I'm a part of that story, then I can be a hero. Because that's what they did to the kids. When they were vaccinating the kids, they had big posters with an arrow that said hero, and the kids stood underneath in the hero. That's the story. Take the jab and I can be a hero in this story. It's sort of the same deal.
No, I agree. I agree. If facts worked, we would have already had a revolution 3 years ago. You know, there would have already been the Nuremberg trials, which would have been called whatever, and it would have been dealt with. So to my mind, no, I agree with you. The stories are important, but the facts keep coming in. Is my point. The next tweet was the all-cause mortality in Italy, and Del Bigtree interviewing an Italian researcher, which made it very clear that so people are dying. If you want to make that into a story, they're killing us. These incompetent, evil clowns are killing our loved ones. They're killing our friends. They're killing our population. That's a story. Sorry,
it's part of the depopulation agenda, really. As Bill Gates and his dad said, Gates said that we should have 3 or 4 billion people less on the planet.
Yeah.
And getting back to what you were talking about before, Michael, I mean, the COVID was a planned mass formation brainwashing campaign, but that was one component of it as a trial to see how subservient and how successful their PR campaign was. But they also initiated fragmentation in our society, where they basically said the unvaxxed were the enemy and the unvaxxed were evil people who were responsible for all these deaths, etc. It was a deliberate fragmentation. And then, of course, what we're now seeing is further fragmentation with, in our society, with the judiciary. I think the judiciary have a lot to answer for. They are not representing the morals of Australian citizens, but the judiciary is allowed the breakdown in society with regards to the crimes that are being created and the kids being released after 40, 50 criminal events and they've been bailed. But then, in addition, fragmenting the Australian spirit and society by this mass immigration and allowing a scenario where there's no policing of people coming here as to whether they want to assimilate, as distinct from interact with Australian people, and they're allowing people to have suburbs of one nationality, etc. I mean, this is all part of the fragmentation of the national Aussie spirit, in my mind. And we're at the crossroads where people have to really say, we're not going to be party to this, and we don't consent. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping that, with regards to the CDC stuff tonight, that people go out and tell 10 others, and let's start it happening. And whether we do go to one of the things you suggested, which I think is a great idea, but it's a matter of organising, is from other freedom podcasts, etc., getting out and out there, but also having communities have meetings to tell fellow citizens this is what's going on, and making people aware.
Yeah, I agree. There's but it's that's what I'm seeing though. Like I'm still seeing people going through the courts. And I think it's great that we did the courts, but the courts do seem to be owned. The judges are acting in completely strange ways. And we're living in a world now of two realities, Doc. Like the Henry Nowak is so important because those police officers turned up and they could not see a dying young man, even though the young man was telling them he was dying, because the other guy had said he was a racist, and that's all they could see was that. The filter of the ideology was so thick, they couldn't smell the blood. They couldn't feel, obviously, he was dying. They feel how cold he was. They couldn't do it. So he just died. In fact, from doing the handcuffs, they actually probably killed him. We had the same here with that old lady that was here. So you see this here. Is that coming up?
Yep.
Yeah.
So in here, these are, I know this sounds things, but these police officers, two men, I don't think they could see that she was an old lady. They've been so fired up to take out us protesters. That's all they saw was a protester. And even though they've got serve and protect on their badge, they couldn't see. And that's where I think we're at. I actually think we have a reality now where people simply can't see what we can see. It's almost like, I was talking to someone today, and I say this a lot now, is the difference between our two sides. The same with you, Doc. This is perfect aimed at you. I think you want to be wrong. I think you'd love to be wrong, to find out that the WHO's really nice and the vaccine's really safe. We just all got it wrong. Sorry us, bang, bang. Sorry for causing all the fuss. And we'd happily go back to our lives and fishing. I bet you'd be love to be fishing up there or something. But we don't feel that we are. Where the other side needs to be right. They desperately need to be right. They can't afford to be wrong because the two investors have got too much to lose. They've injected their kids and all this shit. So this is a really strange dichotomy, and coming in where we're here and looking for the cases of what you're doing now. I think it's really important. But we have to look back at the last 5 or 6 years and go, well, what have we done? What worked? What didn't? And we don't have the time in our veins to continue things that didn't work. So if things haven't worked, we've got to try new shit. Because there is a way to make this work. We've just got to find it. Find a way to get people fired up. Find a way to get people empowered. Find a way to people realize freedom, liberty, democracy takes responsibility. You got to fight for it or they'll take it away. And they are taking it away now. They've been doing it for 6 years and they're not stopping. They're not,
With the case of Congressman or Senator Johnson in America, who you had on earlier before, more and more info is getting out there, slowly, dribble by dribble, but more and more people are becoming aware. And once we get, I don't know what the critical mass is, whether it's 20, 30%, people really fully wake up. And when I'm not talking about the 30% that already know, but of that middle group of people that sort of just went along with it because, they smelt there was something wrong, but they still went along with it. When they get more data, like what Congressman Johnson, Senator Johnson's bringing out, and if they become aware of that, then that's when those on the fence might say, hang on here, the next time it comes along, like this crap I was talking about before of what's happened today with the university welcoming BioNTech with their messenger RNA, people have just got to say this is ridiculous. Having said that, let's not forget. I mean, it's just frightening. Here we have a situation where in Australia, 80% of our pharmaceuticals come from overseas, mainly India and China. And, at any one time, there's anywhere between 50 and 200 different pharmaceutical items in short supply, meaning, a month's worth left. Morrison gave 1.5 billion with a B, Australian taxpayer dollars, to help set up Moderna's messenger RNA factory in Clayton next to Monash University, instead of developing a manufacturing pharmaceutical industry here where we make our own pharmaceutical products. I mean, you talk about, fascism, takeover, global interest. Here we are staring, and they controlled the media as they do. Nothing was said about that.
Yeah, Rob,
No.
I see them as military facilities. The data centers, the mRNA plant. These are to me they're not civilian. They're military. Getting back to Ron Johnson, I posted to one of his tweets this week. Nothing says safe and effective quite as loudly as the willful covering up of signals of harm. They literally set up the system so that they could cover up the emerging signals, and that's, again, these are not like slap on the wrist sort of things. This should lead to consequences. This is him speaking about it on Fox News.
First of all, thank you for covering this, because the legacy media is not. They're ignoring it. They're covering it up. But here's the gist of what we uncovered. On March 1st of 2021, less than 3 months after the emergency use authorization, the head of the division within FDA that approves vaccines and then is supposed to surveil for its safety was warned that their safety surveillance system was going to hide and mask safety signals. 26 days later, a different data run using a different algorithm showed 25 safety signals, including sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, Bell's palsy, other types of strokes. For 3 successive months, they had additional data runs, more cases of stroke and sudden cardiac death, and they hid it. They are continuing to hide it to this day. It's a major scandal. I certainly intend to continue to dig into this. We're starting to interview people that were involved in this right now. I'm going to meet with Secretary Kenny tomorrow. Hopefully we don't have to subpoena records. He doesn't want that. I don't want that either. But he's being sabotaged within these agencies. So again, this is a massive government cover-up, not only inside these agencies, but in the legacy news media. Anybody involved in this, they don't want to admit they're wrong. They don't want to admit these shots that they imposed on the American public could have killed or disabled people. That's why,
So that's what I mean. It's
Well, let me
These
tell you,
are
I'm
crimes.
talking on the road to
these are
people.
crimes. These are crimes. These are
I know
crimes.
they're crimes, but I've been talking on
Fucking
the road
crimes.
to people.
People need to be arrested for this. You don't get to not merely. It's not incompetence anymore. It's
corruption.
It's
And
it's
all the oppression on the
murder.
front.
It's murder. It's
It is
corruption.
femicide and stuff. But I'm just saying, because we were at a gathering recently and stuff like this. A lot of people are saying is they're staggered. Like, we've had one sort of golden bullet after another over the years of things that you would have known, Doc, that things that came out thought, oh, this is the end of it. This is it. This is where people go, enough. And it goes by as though nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. And it's just this and this and this. It's really interesting as to, and the government is offering nothing to the future of Australians. They know that now. Nothing. Now this new budget came out. Even that has fired people up because they're realizing, wow, I was only holding on thinking I get rich from these investments. That's all been taken away. So I think there's a good environment for a really good campaign, which is aimed at empowering Australians. It's time for us to look after ourselves. Before the Lima Agreement, We were a manufacturing powerhouse. Look at a picture of 1970. Everything in that picture we made, from the bricks in the buildings to the cars themselves, to the clothes that you were wearing. We did all of that. We're thoroughly independent, and this is where we were. And now the only thing we can make is cappuccinos. So
We've only got enough electricity for cappuccinos. They've destroyed the electricity
that's right.
system for manufacturing.
That's right. This is it. These are good arguments to make, and I think this is something really interesting to go with. If we got together and said, look, we've gone this way, we've gone this way, we've gone this way. They haven't really achieved anything. Maybe there's a fresh way to start, with a positive way of actually taking back control of our own health. Never in the future is any corporation, any government department, anyone going to say you must take this. Never. We'll take it if we fucking want to take it. End of story.
Well,
That's simple.
This is something, I've been watching how globally they're taking away the exemptions for conscience, religious grounds, and with the APRA and the way they stitch up the medical and pharmacy profession, they've drummed out anyone with conscience who would say give an exemption. They've so terrified the profession that there's no medical exemptions. In other words, it's the mandates that got people to Canberra in their hundreds of thousands in 2020, end of 2022, they still exist, and they're still defending him in the courts by not hearing him, not letting it go to the Supreme Court. The LAUSD case is a case in point, but Aaron Siri is also fighting this in the US. We still have the no jab, no pay. That's coercion, financial coercion. No jab, no play. You basically you can't send your kid to a childcare without the shots. And in the past, I would have been okay with that, but now that I've seen more and more of the data of the vaccinated versus unvaccinated controls, and it's all of them show, even though they've been heavily censored and retracted by journals and all that, not by the authors, not because the data there was any fraud or anything, they all show that the unvaccinated kids were healthier on many different domains. So we know what a major cause of the chronic disease, the tsunami of chronic disease in our youth, and at the same time they're mandating it. They're just saying you can't resist this on conscience. You won't be able to send your kids to childcare unless you comply. I think that something has to give. I applaud John Ruddock for getting a bill in to question this, but I think there's still so many vaccine zealots who are just totally unaware of the carnage. SIDS. When I was practicing, I remember tragedy. Seeing dead babies being brought into emergency. And not being able to be resuscitated. And I never, ever thought of asking, when was their last vaccination? When was their last health, the wellness checks? And now we're seeing more and more of the data of the relationship with SIDS to their injections. And this is something that we're mandating, we're abolishing informed consent, we're abolishing conscientious objection or religious exemption. It doesn't even matter to them if your religious beliefs go against having products developed with aborted fetal cells, or they don't care. Stick it in you. You don't just comply. And I think at some point there's going to be I keep waiting for the backlash. But the only thing I can do, Michael and Rob, at the moment is to share the data that I'm seeing, because I'm sure at some point people, out of a sense of self-preservation, will develop the correlate.
Yeah, well, we've got the Nuremberg Code, International Code, bodily autonomy. Nobody can force you to have a jab, and they've just ignored that. And the population has to rise up and say, hang on here, this is an international law, and you just can't usurp that. And they've got to stand up and just say, no, we do not consent, and people have to.
Maybe we should do short comedy videos on teaching Australians how to say no. Come on, everybody. You can say it. Yes. No, that's almost there. Go. Yes. No, nodding the head. Come on. You remember, just try it. Come on. Oh, my head doesn't want to shake because I love the government. There could be a lot of humor and stuff like this. This is campaigns. These are ads. And AI, I hate to say it, AI gives us the ability to create really interesting stuff really, really quickly. I'll play the ad for a sec. And, well, I might play it now, and then we can come back and talk solutions. So I did this, probably took me half an hour. Doc, see what you think. This is for the quiz show.
Secretly, I love Cafe Locked Out.
Wait, really?
Yeah, don't tell anyone.
Your secret's safe with me.
So they were all dressed in black. I got AI to change them all into yellow and have the police sponsor me and cover them in corporate things because they're all corporatized police. So they were all in black, but AI changed it all to yellow.
It's the quiz show on the close.
I wrote the lyrics.
It's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show on the close. Oh, fuck. Is it only Monday night? It's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show. It's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show on the close. Oh, fuck. Is it only Monday night? Hey, it's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show. It's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show on the close. Oh, fuck. Is it only Monday night? It's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show on the close. Oh, fuck. Is it only Monday night? His internet will lag, and his prizes are crap. And I'm pretty sure he never took the fucking jab. But since you're all out of fuel because your government shafted you, where else can you go? So, roll up, ladies and gentlemen, and come on down to Cafe Locked Out, because it's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show. It's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show on the close. Oh, fuck. Is it only Monday night? Come on, everybody, sing along. It's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show. It's the quiz show on the close. It's the quiz show on the close. Oh, fuck. Is it really only Monday night?
So what I'm saying is, we can. Oh no, look, it's easy to do. We can make this stuff really quickly. It's their propaganda versus our propaganda, but I think it has to be twofold. You have to go. If you're going for the youth, this is their future. This is your future now. The old people don't care. The old people just want to. You'd know that, Doc. The old people just want to come in, get a pill, go home. They don't care what it is, as long as they get a pill. And but the young people, they see great debt, no houses, and now they get the sense that someone's going to take over all their medical stuff and tell them what to take and what to do. That could really fire them up. So I think a two-pronged effect could work, and it's doing with slogans. It's actually going after women. Might be different from men. Men like men are going, yeah, whatever. They, it's it's but it's doable, Robert. It really is doable, but you have to inspire people. We can't frighten people anymore. They've had so much fear that they can't take anymore. It's just like hammering a nail in that's as deep into the wood as it can get. You're just pointless. But we can inspire them to a different Australia. Adrian McRae said it to me once, and I totally concur. He that's the only reason I say the word to sound like a doctor. Anyway, there's but the concur, see. But anyway, it's Dr. Joke. Don't worry about it. There's he says we need a vision for an Australia that people can taste, smell, see. That's what Pauline Hanson is doing. Pauline Hanson is saying there's a better way. I'm going to get Australia back, and people can understand what that is. So we can jump on that bandwagon and say, look, the Orange Revolution is here, but this is it. Australians have to take over their own future. It's it. They have corrupted you, and they're just going to milk you dry and fill your veins full of shit until you croak. It's time to change, time to fight.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything they're doing is wiping out the middle
everything
class.
We love.
Yep, absolutely.
Everything we love.
Yep, and now's the time. But I think it's a fantastic idea, and having an attack that way with the videos would be wonderful, Michael. So this could be
little videos that you can put up, 30-second, 40-second little ad videos that go up, and stuff like this. Maybe make them clever, and there's other things like that. They can be shared phone to phone. So if they're short, 30 seconds, then you can share them in a text. So if Facebook bans them, they go crazy, they go viral that way. And so there's finding ways. A social media connection is very important. But I also think, like we can't take you on tour around Australia, but you can get on stage in your particular area. Things aren't that expensive to hire, you know what I mean? But when we're at these gatherings, I really feel, I know when I've seen some, we have to sell hope. We can't keep selling the facts that they've all heard or this. We have to sell hope. We have to sell a new dawn. Yes, it's very, very dark now, and if they have their way, it'll get darker. But there is a dawn, but you have to fight for it.
Absolutely.
We need
you, mate.
My candidate thing is end the corruption. I like Pauline's, but what I see is just incredible amounts of corruption, and I think if we're going to have a future worth living and a society that's honest, moral, and progressive, we have to have transparency from the government.
Yeah.
We have to have accountability for people who transgress. I think it's as simple as that. You don't have to do videos; you can do memes too. Here's a meme.
What's this one? Yeah, that's right. I think I got a thing here from Duncan. The WHO recommends the vaccines, PCRs, other medical technologies to countries who are obliged to purchase the products that the WHO recommends, and the WHO stakeholders reap the payments via the public taxes. So that amount of that, all that money they're going to make on the 35-1, that'll be our taxes.
Yeah.
So instead of putting money into your kids' future, instead of paying off your house, you'll be making some billionaire richer so he can get new gold taps for his yacht. So this is where we're at.
Yeah, well, as I said, the pandemic treaty, if it goes through, they're saying they want a percentage of the public health expenditure. And for an enormous number of countries, each country, they're talking billions of dollars giving to them, and it's just unbelievable what's going on.
Yeah.
But we need to make people aware.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. It's a good thing to talk about. Thanks for coming on, Rob. Is there anything else you wanted to get off your chest?
No, thank you. And I just hope that the listeners have a look, go to the WHO site themselves, whatever, but spread the information far and wide. It's up to us. It's guerrilla warfare. I know we've been there before with the WHO issue, but we've got to the stage where now this is the final installment. If we don't stop it, it is a totalitarian takeover.
And anyone out there, get to Grok Imagine. It's very cheap. In fact, it's free for the first load of them. Grok Imagine. You can make 10-second videos. That's all we need. Make 10-second video. Suno does the music. That's very cheap. I'm playing 2 songs tonight from a follower, Troy, who is sending them in. So these are not all my songs anymore. We can make protest songs really quickly. He's got a really great protest song now called True Blue. And he actually wrote it because he said, where are all the True Blue songs gone? Where are the John Williamsons? They're all gone because we've lost our identity. So this is that. If you're out there, start writing songs, start doing this any way you can. And let's get this out there. But getting the message, I don't know if you're still with a group, Rob, but getting a succinct, catchy message is the first thing, of Australia for Australians or something. That's the first thing. Something like kill the bill or fire the liar, something we can use. So people go, okay, yeah, that's about the WHO. And then what it means, Yeah. We don't need another country running our health. No.
I'm on the executive amps now, Michael.
What's that?
I said I'm on the executive amps these days.
Oh, well, there you go. That's amps. Fantastic. So there's amps and doctors. This is fantastic. And see, we've got the amps at the back of the bus. See, a lot of your amps people are still working. So they're really good people and really strong and brave. But we've got the posse have all lost their jobs, suspended or quit. We got the amps at the back of the bus. We got the BAMPs. So they can come on. So, but it's great because honestly, when they came on with Charlie Teo, people loved them. They loved these doctors standing together and showing unity. And maybe we could do that. Get them on next. I want to get Cox on, Dr. Koch, who basically young guy can't practice because he didn't want to participate in abortions, and they've made his life a misery for 7 years. Now he fixes computers. So, there's things that can be done. APRA doesn't serve Australia at all that I see. The CDC won't. All this, it's all bullshit. So we've got nothing to lose. Yeah. Anyway, say hi to the AMPS people from us and stuff like that. Thanks for coming on, Rob. I really appreciate it, man. We're a bit sort of Armageddon fatigued, I think, as a lot of people are. So it's fine.
No,
it's finding a better way to market it, and the hope
absolutely
is best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael.
No worries,
Thanks, Rob.
See you, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, see you, man. Oh, he's a great guy. Great guy. So, 138. Anything else you want to get off your thing before you?
I'll play this. Just it's a little thing. So this is Ed.
Let's go back to COVID. This is what's bothering me. We elected Trump. We got Bobby Kennedy that came on board, and it was supposed to be this, huge sea change. The only elephant in the room I see is COVID, reconciliation, COVID truth, and mRNA shots. They don't touch that. Bobby doesn't touch it. No one touches it. And I'm not blaming Bobby because he's not the boss, but there's clearly a decision that has been made. We're going to memory hold this because it's the greatest scandal in the history of this country, and it's continuing to kill, thousands and millions of people and disabling them. I just put out on X yesterday or 2 days ago the latest disability numbers. They went to a new all-time high in the month of May. So we've added 6 million people that identify as disabled. And again, a lot of people think this is all fraud and it's like illegal aliens. This is a survey. This is just people answering yes to one of 6 questions. If they answer yes to one of them, they're labeled this. The BLS survey puts you down as disabled. You may not even self-identify as it, but they put you down as that. So it's a survey, and it's not 100% accurate because it's a statistical survey, so it's imputed. So it's the best number we got. Is it all due to the COVID shots? No, but mostly. That's my humble opinion. There's a little bit of population growth.
Yeah, so that was a good. I thought
What
that
was
was a
his
good.
name again?
Edward Dowd. Yeah, he's a former BlackRock
Yeah, I remember.
fund manager, and I've been following him for a few years.
Let's reach out to him, see if he'll come on.
Yeah, he's great. He's from Maui, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
Look, I think it's really interesting what's going on in the world. Like I said to you before, I'm trying to make sense of everything. I still think. I mean, frankly, I've been wrong so far about the consequences of the shortfall of crude oil products from the war in Iran. I think we understand now how that's come about. I follow people like Art Berman, who's an oil analyst, and we understand why the shit hasn't hit the fan yet, largely because China reduced its demand by 40%, and all the other countries, especially the US, dug into their piggy bank, their strategic reserves. But those reserves keep dwindling. So I don't think it's going to be a pandemic that's going to be the next threat.
They couldn't get away with another pandemic unless people they tried Ebola. If Ebola doesn't scare people into masks, nothing will. There's nothing worse than Ebola. They tell you, all your things melt, and then you just spew blood all around your nice laminated kitchen. If that doesn't scare people, they don't have anything else. Alien invasion, which makes you wonder because Trump's got those strange people who's talking to today. Alien invasion and war, and but can anyone afford to go to war? Seriously, apart from
no, but that's actually a good thing. If they can't afford to go to war anymore, which if you look at the bond markets, like the 30-year yield in Japan, even of the Australian, UK, America, their bonds, the yield's going up, and they're at very dangerous levels. So this is from where I'm sitting, a financial accident is coming. But the thing that will affect
this. Sorry, Paul. We're getting a lot of this. Jan, we don't send out any request to join Cafe Lockdown supporters. I think I set that up ages ago. I forgot about it when we were being shadow banned like crazy. We don't send out requests, so it's not from us, Jen. Yeah, sorry, Paul, keep going.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of financial risks at the moment, particularly to the sovereign debt market. If the rates go up, the bonds crash, and that they can't afford. The governments can't afford to pay their bills, so they'll defend it, but they'll defend it at the cost of destroying our currency, which means hyperinflation, at least very high inflation. And economic stagnation, as if we haven't had enough economic stagnation already. So I think that's the real threat, and I think that if things don't, I still can't get my head around. There's this missing oil, and oil equals economy.
Yeah,
and yet we've got these record IPOs, SpaceX, $1.4 trillion. And all that. So I think something is. I think that's going to be the vector of attack to control us. And the advice is the same as what I've been saying for years. It's getting resilient. getting resilient, because the more things you can take care of yourself and in your community, the easier it is to bring out the Corella in you. You know.
Yep.
One last little thing, perhaps. This is so I'm oh, there it is. All right, we know this guy.
A recent report in JAMA from Rockwell and colleagues suggests that the use of ivermectin and benzoyl in cancer patients has skyrocketed. And this started happening during 2025. And you know what was a big trigger? It was when Mel Gibson went on the Joe Rogan show. And Mel talked about this. So it's ivermectin, mebendazole, or fenbendazole, a micronized formula, has been demonstrated in the first clinical report to have about an 84% positive impact. Cancer stayed the same or actually improved when this is added to traditional cancer care. Now the National Cancer Institute, who's obviously following this in the Rockwell report, so NCI knows this is going on, they should step up and do a large prospective randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial.
And you see the reason you know the playbook from COVID, they're trying to make analogs of these cheap generic drugs, so that they can then they will, just like with Paxlovid, which we now know didn't work, just like molnupiravir, which is a mutagen and was useless in comparison to the other drugs, the cheap generic drugs. It's the same playbook, and you know, Michael, it still fits under the rubric of corruption.
Yeah.
It's all the corruption. We're talking about ways to benefit people who have got cancer diagnoses. Yeah. Look, I'm sick of it.
I think everyone's sick of it. Everyone's sick. But the thing is, they have a plan. They're going somewhere, and they're heading there, and they're not stopping. This is what we can see. You can feel it. Nothing stops them.
Look at the UK. Australia's not on this list for some reason, but this is the countries with the most arrests for online comments, and I feel really bad for the people of the UK. You know, with that.
Yeah, it's insane, and they're doing that.
It's insane.
But when the English invaded India, do you know how they controlled the Hindus, which had huge masses? They made the Muslims the police officers, so there was two tiers. You know, and the Muslims were pretty brutal to the rest, and that's how they governed it. And now you're seeing in England, what are they doing? It's basically, they had some Muslims the other day who were beating up cops at the airport. They got off. They walked, even though they broke a cop's nose. So you see two-tier thing, and two-tier is another way to control. So England's so busy fighting each other, pure red ants and black ants, that behind the scenes, they're bringing in whatever they want to bring in, digital ID, whatever it is, because they're all focused on that. I mean, Keir Starmer is, I don't know.
But it enrages people.
They've got someone who is addicted to high qualities of Valium and quantities of Valium. They just put him in charge. He's just like, you know, he's just like, just stick him there and don't let him speak.
But Michael, when you have two tiers of justice, when you have a class that is unaccountable, that can literally murder, cheat, steal, without facing consequences,
why wouldn't they feel
that should enrage people, and that's the future we have to get to. So somewhere between here and there, we need transparency and we need accountability. I've got a little positive thing to end on.
Sure.
It's very short.
Are you pregnant?
What? I'm a boy. I can't be pregnant. I'm copying Dad.
Oh my God.
There you go. So that tweet came with your hope for the future generations. I think there you go. There's some.
Oh, I'm finding great hope in that. I've met a few young people here. I'm finding great hope in them. I think they're not up for taking a load of shit that they never voted for or that agreed to or signed up to. So I don't think it's over yet. But I just think that it's time to do other ways, and I just feel we can sell a hope of a future better than facts. Facts are important, but actually selling the vision of a hope and how we can get there is the way forward. But I could be wrong. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. But I can tell you that future won't be worth shit if we don't have transparency, if we don't have accountability.
That's right.
We can't have a class of people wandering around that to get off scot-free no matter what they do.
Yeah, that's 100%.
So I don't know exactly how we're going to get there, but I can tell you the destination leads there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well, we persevere. As Dr. Pay says, we just don't quit. All right, I'm going to go out with this is True Blue by I think it's called True Blue by Troy. This one is called Troy Bates, but he also answers to Troy Anthony, which we found out. And send in your songs and start firing up, thinking how can we do this? And we'll see you in the quiz show tomorrow. We will be doing a webinar. We probably will get attacked, I have no doubt, but we're continuing to do it because we just want to have open-ended discussions like this, but actually with the audience as well, because the audience have loads of great ideas and fun, and so we will keep going. So let's see what happens tomorrow as we persevere. All right, this is Troy. See you, Doc. Bye.
Bye, family.
This is a great song.
On the dirt by the fence line, I seen it turn mean. Boots in the dust, and it looked like a machine. With the political enforcement officers, listen to me and you. When we are in a fight, when the grass gets chewed, I don't need a medal, I don't need a lie, just someone on my side when the hard times fly. We all bleed red, but the nickname is True Blue. We all bleed red, and I'm standing by you. True Blue, True Blue, that's what mates do. We all bleed red, but the nickname is True Blue. Woo! Have you been stabbed? I don't think so, mate, but I saw your jaw go tight at the busted gate, standing by your mate. When they're in a fight means staying in the ring and keeping it right. If the storm rolls over and the trouble comes through, I'll plant my boots there and I'll stand with you. We all bleed red, but the nickname is True Blue. We all bleed red, and I'm standing by you. True Blue, True Blue, that's what mates do. We all bleed red, but the nickname is True Blue. Down by the war shrine, firing bullets at peacetime. When will they realize we're their own kind? Mates through and through, red dusted the good book and Versailles. Remember what our diggers did for me and you. Blue bees among the yellow, some say 832, but no matter who, I'll plant my boots there and I'll stand with you. We all bleed red, but the nickname is True Blue. We all bleed red, and I'm standing by you. True Blue, True Blue, that's That's what mates do. We all bleed red, but the nickname is True Blue. Now past the paddock, past the wire and dust, a good mate's shoulder is the one thing you trust. No fancy words, just a hand held firm when the road turns rough. That's where hearts learn. We all bleed red, but the nickname is True Blue. We all bleed red, and I'm standing by you. True Blue, True Blue. That's what mates do. We all bleed red, but the nickname is True Blue.